Hello, Victor here again, RestoringMercedes.com. Another day, but that's not a full day. It's just like a few hours actually. So, because the warm days are coming to the end, I wanted to finish whatever I can do, as much as I can do, in terms of underneath suspension, whatever needs to be done under the vehicle. So, you know, it's the t-shirt weather right now. So it's the end of October and we're still pretty much warm. So today I decided to fix the leak from the front hydraulic lines that go to the rear suspension. Yes, this car still has original hydraulics, and yes, it does work, although they're noisy, but adaptive damping system works, sensors work, everything works, steering angle, acceleration, all of that is on point. The car is soft, and therefore I do want to fix, you know, keep the original hydraulics in place. But because of the leaks, I had lots of fluid that came out. That was nasty actually. And these are the pipes that I replaced, and I replaced them with the copper one. Well, this one was not successful, so that's just set aside. So these are the lines. So this is the return, if I remember correctly. There was a little bit of damages here. I'm not sure which one leaked. They both were pretty soaked, but supply line appears to be in a little better shape, but still nonetheless these two areas usually they rust around clamps, and this is where the clamp used to be, one of them at least, right over here. And this is the front of the lines, the front, and that's the rear. So there was a clamp right over here, and there was another clamp right over here. Now let's take a look at what we have here now. I made them out of copper, like I said, and this is what they look like. Now here I did flare it. I put the flare junction on the supply line. The return is just a regular rubber hose. That is okay actually. Clamp is also okay, so I just retightened it, and I decided to put the clamp, the rubber grommet, right in this area, right where the screw is. As you can see, there is a screw that holds the covering, and this attachment point is in the same place. Of course, pipes are held very nicely and they keep going, and I do have two splices. Yes, I did splice them because I didn't want to replace the whole line all the way to the back. They seem to be okay, just surface rust and some more surface rust, but that's not a big deal because I still have some leaks in the back of the vehicle, so that is to be dealt with. Now these are going to be in the open, so I will monitor if they leak. I can't do it now because I have a leak in the rear and the whole suspension is empty. And also what's important is when you route these lines, you bend them around, you make sure that they don't touch anything. Okay, so they have to be absolutely away from everything, suspended from the body. Nothing should be touching. See, like this one seems close, but it is not touching, because you might have annoying vibration coming into the vehicle through the body of the car. You obviously want to avoid that. So nothing is touching the body, and that is great. Now here I have some anti-seize paste that I applied just in case for future, and all these openings where screws would go, I will spray now with the surface shield. Surface shield. I like using this spray a lot, and this one, rust protectant and what have you. So this is, it's half full now, so I got it out. You know, I use it a lot, so I'm gonna have to replenish my stock. Now here, just blew it with some air, and that's the other shot of the hose. Obviously I'll spray these with the same rust shield and spray there. Don't want to go crazy on the pipes because I want to see if they're not leaking first, and then I spray the rest of the tubes whatever I can reach it, whatever, you know, whatever the area I can reach it with the spray can. Now, like, let's say this bolt right there, the spigot here, I'll spray that a little bit, and that won't hurt at all. And these, of course, I don't want to spray all over yet too much, because if there are any leaks, I won't know, because everything will be wet, right? Like right there, I can do. Let it be like that. I would rather have everything covered with spray versus rust developing, right? So nothing rusts here. And that's basically going to be all with the front. I'll put it all back together, just again spray a couple of areas, and then I'm gonna move on to the rear. Okay, so late night edition as usual. Now I went to do the rear hydraulics, and I found a leaking pipe that goes from the strut to the suspension valve. Now I don't know if this is available anymore or not, so I removed it, but while at it I went to check up on the e-brake situation. So I got frustrated with this. I went to check up on e-brakes. Then I got very upset with the e-brakes, parking brake. I went back to the hydraulics, so I've been alternating between the two just to keep my sanity together. Now, here's the light. Let's take a look what we have here. Well, first of all, unfortunately, I did have to remove the locking mechanism, the lever. I don't know how to call it. Lock, lever, intermediate piece, what have you, that sits right in there above the drive shaft, which is not the super fortunate location, obviously. Now the reason I had to remove it is because it was frozen. I'll show you that in a minute. But because it was frozen, I could not move anything, so I had to remove and you know, made it light, you know, like there's no, so like relieve the tension of the one of the e-brake cable itself. This is the e-brake cable. In order to do that, you do have to remove the wheel and the caliper, and you had to remove the actual disc and separate the e-brakes, loosen them up, and then you can feed the cable throughout that hole. So I have, you know, I had just a little bit of room, and I finally got that thing out of there. Now this is the piece, the damn piece. This thing was frozen, the arm. As you can see, it moves nice and free now because I cleaned it as best as I could, and I put living daylights of the grease. This is a marine grease from my boating days. This is the marine grease. That thing is designed to work well, you know, on marine applications, obviously. So this is something that is not going to be washed away, well, at least not as much as the regular lithium grease which we have here. But in any event, the drawback of the marine grease is because it works the colder temperature, it gets a little stiffer, but it doesn't matter. I would rather do this because at the end I'm going to still grease the hell of it with this all over the place, because this whole mechanism was soaked with PB Blaster just to free it up, and now it's all free. It moves. It is in service state right now. As you can see, the tiny little spring holds the pole. This is the ratchet, right? So it has this tiny little spring to hold it in the service mode, because I do want to keep it in this mode so I can reinstall it, so I have the maximum length on the pole, and how do you call it, pole, I guess, and all of that. And once I put the screw to secure the e-brake cable that goes through the vehicle to the front, to the pedal itself, then I'm gonna spray all over the place, because that has some thread lock on it. So obviously I don't want to spray right now, so the thread lock is, it can be compromised. So yeah, this is it. I mean, this is crazy, but it is what it is. I'm not out of the woods with hydraulics yet because I have my flaring kit here, but I made one flare. I'm trying to do the best I can, but the problem is that this car has two different sizes on the flares. This is a 19 millimeter. This is 17 millimeter. Now 17 millimeter, that's fine, but the pipe, I cannot enlarge the pipe to make it larger. So I put the regular flare, you know, the 10 millimeter, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this washer, I'm gonna cut it to size just to enlarge the opening, so when the bolt goes over the flare itself, is going to compress a little better, because in the essence, in reality, oops, yeah, okay, well, it's like midnight by now, but since I started this work and we only have a couple of warm days left in the forecast, I have to move on. So now, and I still have to shape this pipe. I have to make a 90-degree bend on it. So this is how it's supposed to be. As you can see, the nut goes right over the flare edges and it tightens it down to the surface that it's supposed to be mated to. Whereas this is the proper size, okay? This is the right size, barely any motion. But this is a 3/8 pipe. It's not even 10 millimeter, but whatever I've done this before, but it turned out that this car had two different sizes. Like, seriously, like, I had no choice. The line is broken, the hydraulic is leaking. I mean, what am I supposed to do? So I have to do something out of nothing. And if that pipe is available at the dealership, well, of course I'm going to go buy it and replace it. But it's just that I have to make it happen now, tonight. So I'm gonna have to modify this washer to make it just the diameter of this nut right here. All right, so just a bit smaller, so I have a little better contact point, because I have a much smaller contact point now. And yeah, so I want to make sure that it's not going to leak. If it's leaking, okay, fine, I'm gonna deal with it. If it isn't, great. If the pipe is available, I'll go buy it. But yeah, I have to still make that 90-degree bend, as you can see, as original used to be. And this is rotted out. The rest is fine. I mean, there's some rust, surface rust, but I don't know why this one rotted out. That's just weird. Okay, I'll continue working because I still have to wrap this up one way or the other tonight.